Hi, it's Sue Stockdale, your host for the Sports 2000 podcast. This series takes you behind the scenes of this British sports car prototype series that gives drivers a chance to compete at some of the UK and Europe's finest circuits every year. I'll be talking to some of the people involved in making it happen, the drivers, the sponsors and the champions, to give you an insight into why Sports 2000 is sometimes called motorsport's best kept secret. Support for this podcast comes from Broad Town Brewery. And today, one of my guests is Jason Bayliffe, the founder of the brewery. But before we get into that, my first guest is Mike Lowe of Creative Funding Solutions, who are sponsoring the Sports 2000 Championship again this year. Welcome to the podcast, Mike.
Hi, Sue. Thanks for having me.
First of all, on behalf of SRCC Sports 2000, thank you for supporting the championship. And I know that without Creative Funding Solutions support last year in 2020, the shortened season wouldn't have taken place. So I'm sure everybody in the club is really grateful for your support.
It's our absolute pleasure. We really enjoy the championship, and it's lovely to meet all of the competitors who are a good bunch of people.
They certainly are. And tell us a bit about Creative Funding Solutions then, Mike. What does your business do?
Okay, so Creative was established during the credit crunch in 2009 to predominantly help small businesses access funding. We're a team of 20 based out of Gatwick Airport, but we have nationwide coverage. The business's main selling point, our USP if you like, is the access to funding. We've got very large and diverse funding lines catering for all sorts of finance. So when what you do is offer finance, it's good to have a good suite of products. Some of those are exclusive lines, and predominantly we can put our business into three channels, which is business finance, personal finance and property finance. Generally, we support everything from private individuals buying a car, for example, to new start businesses with no trading history whatsoever, right up to large blue chip limited companies and PLCs that deserve the very best in service and rate. So we really have got a wide offering to the business community.
I'm curious to know a little bit about the word creative in your business title. And I'm imagining that if somebody's buying a horse box, or as you say, a car or something like that, or a yacht, or even a race car, I'm imagining, is that the sort of way that you would help them creatively to find the finance for that sort of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. Got nothing to do with creative accounting, I can assure you that.
That's good to know.
After this year, I think some businesses might be wondering where the funds are coming from. But no, what it is a very holistic approach, getting to understand our customers and their needs, particularly businesses, because no two businesses are the same and no two requirements are the same. Doing a decent fact find and presenting that to the underwriters in the most favourable way to get them the right deal, which we'll have pre-discussed with the customer and worked out what we think the right route is for the customer, because it's not just a case of taking a 3-year loan. There's all sorts of variations and permutations to that.
And how has COVID impacted your business? Because I imagine the whole financial world has gone topsy-turvy this year.
Oh, my life. I mean, who hasn't it affected? So the first lockdown was particularly bad and the restrictions were extremely tight nationwide. I think there was no one knew what to expect. No one had really been there before, certainly no one that lived in Britain. And for me personally, there was, and to a certain degree, there remains just an absolute state of disbelief of how this could grip the country and how we could shut the country and the economy down in the way that we have. I mean, personally, I've been extremely lucky and no close friends or relatives have really got ill with it. My mum and my wife's parents, they've now had the vaccine, so that adds some level of comfort moving forward now. But yeah, it's been a tough year. It's been a tough year, and we've taken advantage of the government's job retention scheme, the furlough scheme, as I know a lot of our customers have.
How did you come to be interested in motorsport in the first place and find out about Sports 2000?
I've always been a keen motorsport fan. I've always loved fast cars. I've followed various formulas throughout the years, and some good friends of mine are involved in the Sports 2000 Championship, which is Team Lowe Racing. They told me all about it, suggested that I get involved, and actually it seemed like a really good fit for us. We were launching various websites and the like towards the end of 2019. And it just seemed like a really good way of increasing exposure. And I didn't know loads about Sports 2000 before these conversations. And just as soon as I saw them, the feel of the cars, they look like racing cars, they don't look like road cars. And my life, they're fast. If you're into motorsport, you're into it because of the speed. And so it was a natural fit for me.
Fantastic. And have you been to any of the circuits to watch the racing? Have you got a favourite circuit that you've been to so far?
Yeah, I've been to a few of the circuits. Last year, obviously, there was only 4 meetings, which was a real shame. And because of business commitments myself, I was only actually able to go to Brands Hatch last year, which is our local circuit. And I know it extremely well. I absolutely love Brands Hatch. And I think another circuit would have to do very well to get me away from my local one. But I've seen Sports 2000s at Silverstone as well. And I'm looking forward to Donington.
I imagine if you've been to the race meetings, you'll see that a lot of the competitors have motorhomes or some sort of accommodation when they're there for a race weekend. And I know you do some work to support people in the financing of those things. Tell us more about how that's important and what you do around motorhomes.
Oh, we absolutely do. So motorhomes is obviously a big part. Well, it was a big growth sector for us last year, and we see it continuing just the same this year in 2021. We have a dedicated website, which is www.motorhome.finance. And we're basically engaging with anyone that's buying new or used motorhomes. If you're buying them personally, you can fund them up to 10 years, which helps keep the payments lower. But we also help businesses fund motorhomes. And there's a lot of new and existing hire businesses because people are doing their staycations and not everyone's going to buy them, so people will rent them. And actually, a lot of businesses that are associated with the motor industry, for the very reason that you said, people tend to turn up with some sort of RV or motorhome, and we fund all of them. So if we can help with that, please do reach out.
It's great to hear that you are able to support the competitors perhaps in that way if they're looking to having a glitzier motorhome when they show up at the race meeting.
You've got to have the glitziest ones. I've seen Team Law's motorhome and hospitality suite, and you're going to have to do well to beat that. So the challenge is there.
You've set the benchmark high by telling the listener about that. Fantastic, Mike. And this year coming up, what are your aspirations? What are your hopes for the championship this year and the Sports 2000 season?
Well, primarily, I hope that everyone's fit and well and is able to return for the season. Feels like 2020 was a very long year with many badly affected one way or another by COVID. So I hope that everyone is able to return to the grid that wants to return to the grid. And my main hope for the actual championship is that all 6 meetings can happen. I'm really looking forward to going to as many of them as I can do. Donington on the 10th and 11th of April. The drivers can work off some of their Easter chocolate over that weekend, can't they? So looking forward to that.
Absolutely. And that's always a great one to watch. I love going to the Donington circuit to watch there. So I'm sure you'll have a great time there, Mike. And I believe you have been out on the circuit with one of the young talents at some stage. And what were your impressions for being inside a race car?
I really was. I was really lucky. Clive Hayes took me out in a specially adapted MCR Duratec car, and it was fantastic. It was a really, really surreal day. It was the media day at Brands Hatch, where you've got all of the MSVR racing championship cars there. So there's a lot of variety. It was last February, I think, and there was snow on the ground and racing cars going around the circuit, a fair old lick and not full racing speed, but anyone that gets in these cars can't tootle around in them. And to have those pictures with the snow in the background and snow coming down as well was really completely surreal. And actually being in the car, Clive did a fantastic job, and I got to feel a bit of the downforce and feel the speed. I'm not racing fit myself, and I have to say it was quite a tight fit. And by the time we'd done a few laps, I needed grease to get me out of the seat, I think. But really, really good fun, and I had a fantastic day, and they all looked after me really well.
So you really get a sense of what it's like for the thrill for those drivers competing in Sports 2000, I imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, these guys are nuts, and I love them.
And does it inspire you to want to drive a race car like that?
I'd love to drive a race car. I've got a young family and a business and a lack of time, unfortunately. But when I find myself with a little bit more time on my hands, you can absolutely be guaranteed you'll be seeing me on the track. So I'm lucky.
Fantastic. And if people want to find out more about you and Creative Funding Solutions, Mike, how might they do that on social media or the internet?
Our main website is creativefundingsolutions.co.uk, and there's details of everything that we do there, really. You can always get hold of me. My number's on the internet. Our email addresses are on the internet. And really, for the Sports 2000 guys, I'm even on your WhatsApp chats and the like. So being really insular and just going out to the guys, I'd love to help the championship out on a more personal level. And anything we can do, just reach out to me and I'd love to help or just have a conversation, really.
So I'm sure that listeners to this podcast will be inspired to engage with you, Mike, in some way and connect with you. And maybe they'll even see you at Donington at the race this year, if not there, at some other circuit.
I hope so.
It's been great to talk to you today, Mike. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, Sue. Take care.
Hi, it's me again. To let you know that support for this podcast comes from Broad Town Brewery, the microbrewery in Wiltshire with big ambitions. Their diverse assortment of beers range from classic best bitters and hoppy American West Coast IPAs, through to Baltic porters and Belgian triples. Only the best quality ingredients go into their beers, and their close attention to detail ensures that you can drink beers that are full of flavour and true to style. You can have them delivered straight to your doorstep, no matter where you live. So go on over to the website broadtownbrewery.co.uk and make your choice now. Speaking of beer, my second guest today is Jason Bayliffe, founder of the Broad Town Brewery. Welcome, Jason.
Thank you very much.
What is a railway engineer doing starting up a brewery? That's a rather odd story. Tell us more.
Well, I've been on the railway now 32 years. One of the things about being on the railway is that actually you're not allowed to drink within 12 hours of actually going on duty, which has always been quite restrictive. But I've always enjoyed doing home brewing, which is just a hobby for me. For the last 3 or 4 years, I've stepped it up a bit because a lot of my friends were enjoying the beer that I was making. And they would say to me, you need to go professional, you need to go commercial and do it properly and sell it to everybody. When I got to 50, I just decided, well, I'm going to do this as my plan B for when I want to retire, when I get to sort of, 55, 60, something like that. So I did a stupid thing and I went and bought a professional kit, which I thought I can just put out in my coach house at the back and just leave it there until I can get it all set up. And within months, I started getting this sort of itch and drive to try and do something with it because obviously I had a lot of kit there and I didn't want it to go to waste because obviously it can decay over time. So I literally started brewing sort of last February properly. Sent the first batch out to the public in bottles and stuff, and it just went absolutely bananas. So from where I've sort of gone from I'm still a railway engineer 5 days a week because I still love working on the railway. But I realised that my plan B of this sort of really nice gradual slope into sort of retirement eventually and doing this as my hobby business changed overnight and has gone from being 500 litres a month to now being 3,000 litres a week. So...
Wow, that's some growth.
Yeah.
It sounds like be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing the railways taught me over the years is to really understand your own abilities and your own potential, because that's really why I very quickly realised the balancing of the job that I really love on the railway and then the balancing of brewing and creating this commercial brewery has to be right. So that's why I then had to employ other people to take roles off me so we could do it properly.
In terms of the kind of day-to-day management of Broad Town Brewery and who creates the beers and does the brewing, yes. Have you got a team of people that do that?
Yeah, I have. COVID has been a massive challenge for lots of businesses and what's happened nationally. For me, it sort of had the opposite effect because a lot of people were at home and a lot of people were buying from me locally. But in the same breath, Nathan Beat came along, who was a brewer for another brewery, had been furloughed, was desperate to work and came to me and said, could I take him on? The equipment I use is quite non-conventional in is that it's got a Braumeister. And it's more of a European style of brewing. So for me, I thought straight away, how am I ever going to teach this guy how to brew on my equipment? Well, after day one, I was redundant because he just picked it up straight away and he ran with it. It was amazing. So straight away, Nathan came on board and took over the whole brewing side from me. I then got quite apparent because our beer was getting more available and we were making more of it. Then the actual day-to-day logistics and operational side became quite clear that I needed somebody to run that as well. So that's when I then brought Jodie Gilliatt in, who became my operations manager to run the day-to-day side of the brewery and making sure everything was happening, which then pulls me away and gives me the freedom to come up with the names of the beers, the styles of the beers, the ingredients for the beers and the labelling and all that sort of side that I can do in an evening when I'm not so busy on the railway side. So my position has been sort of pushed up right to the middle, which is, I can't believe how quick it's happened. But I was always told a long time ago, always employ people that are better than you at doing your job, and your business will always be a success. Unfortunately, I struck gold with both Nathan and Jody because they have taken on parts of the business that I thought, oh, crikey, nobody else will be able to do that with all the passion and the heart that I put into it. But I was absolutely wrong because they do. They're absolutely amazing.
You're giving us the idea that there's a real community and family feel to the business. And I'm wondering, because your business is based in a small village, whether that kind of community sense has come to the fore, particularly with COVID and people wanting to support local businesses.
Oh, absolutely. In the beginning, we put it out there on local media and stuff that what we were doing with Broad Town, and Broad Town is a massive part of what we do, obviously not just because of the name, but because of where we're sited and everything, just right on the edge of the village. It's not a huge village. There's sort of a few hundred people there. Our output to them when we're selling to them on a weekly basis is very high, and every event that we do, any new beer launch that we do, they're really, really receptive and they're really, really pushing us along. So I would say it was Broad Town and there's a couple of the surrounding villages that really embraced us at the beginning. And that then gave us the momentum to start spreading out further into Swindon and sort of Cairn and all these areas. So yeah, they've been absolutely behind us.
I can see a lot of similarities between that community feel that you're describing and the sense of community that the SRCC Sports 2000 Championship has, with the family of drivers and the supporting people that are all there to help have a great success with that championship. And it's great that you're also supporting that in this coming season. And I'm wondering what you're excited about in relation to that connection with Sports 2000.
Myself and Clive are both petrol heads anyway, Clive Steeper, who you know from the village. And I like nice cars, I like fast cars. And so does he. And walking past his house one day, noticed he had his car actually out of his garage because he was working on it. And chatting with him, there were so many similarities in what we were thinking about doing with life intentions and what we're doing with our work as well. And then when he started talking about the actual motorsport side of it, I was like, this is absolutely fantastic. And I think because obviously what he does is probably on a small scale, same as us, it just means that, we have that, I hate using the terms, but holistic organic growth, which is what I think about, because you don't lose contact and you don't lose visibility with people that you're working with. And that's how I see it. I don't see anything that we do as a sponsorship. I see it as a real interaction. That's what we're trying to do. Mind you, seeing my logo whizzing around the racetrack is a bit of a chest thumping bit, and all the rest of it. But it's amazing, absolutely amazing.
That's lovely. And I know some of our listeners and some of the Sports 2000 competitors are not based locally in Wiltshire and based around the UK. Can they still get a hold of your beers?
Oh, absolutely. We have a shop and everything that we have here locally, but we do a national shipping of all of our beers that we had available on the website, www.broadtownbrewery.co.uk or .com. We have a shop within there where people can go on specifically. And as long as they buy a 12-bottle case, it's free national delivery. And it's been really successful for us because it's almost 25% of our business now. So it's a huge output for us.
So what's the most popular seller? What's the beer that everyone loves?
We come up with a call for right in the beginning because it was really my way of sort of showing people this is what we can do. So we started off with a session ale, which was Springback. Then I came up with a Fettlers Finest because all my names generally have railway sort of themes. And that was an English pale ale. And then I went for an American pale ale, which was called Whiter Gauge, which again was very hoppy and very citrusy. And then I sort of did a total curveball and went the other way and did, I'm going to do a porter. So I did a Baltic porter called Black Llama, which is the only one that really hasn't got a railway theme. But as you know, with our branding and everything, we have alpacas here actually at the brewery because we had the alpacas long before we ever set up the brewery. So of our core four, they always sell very, very constantly. But we do special beers every month and we sell out very, very quickly of those. So if I had to pick one beer, which I think has really been a success, I would say it's probably been Whiter Gauge, which is our American pale ale, has really, really been embraced as a craft ale.
As you're talking there, you're reminding me about ambition and change and having things that are seasonal. Of course, there's a whole bunch of races coming up this season for the Sports 2000 guys. And I'm wondering, in terms of, they'll be thinking about their ambitions, competing around those race circuits. What are your ambitions for the business this year?
My ambitions for the business this year is we've just basically built a tap room now at the brewery for people to come and visit us. We've actually called it the Hop Chapel, which is a 2-story old style pub, but it's got quite a monastic feel about it because I love Trappist beers. But we've also now building an events part out at the front as well, right next to our We've got an old bus, an old Volvo bus at the back, which we put on. So we're trying to sort of link it all together. So for me, it's about continually establishing ourselves locally within Wiltshire. We're certainly not a leader because there's lots of great breweries around here. But at the moment, pushing ourselves up as being recognised as being one of the challenges coming through and showing what we can do. So always trying to demonstrate that we try new techniques, new styles, new ideas, and just ways of trying to raise our head above the parapet so we can stand among sort of the giants that are around here, really.
I'm sure that will be music to the ears of some of the drivers who are thinking perhaps challenging for the championship this year as well. It's been lovely to speak to you today. I think you're giving us a sense that it's a destination place to visit, is the Broad Town Brewery in Wiltshire. So I hope you are going to go from strength to strength with the business this year, and we'll see you at some race during 2021. Thanks for your time today, Jason.
There. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed hearing from Mike Lowe and Jason Bayliffe, and we appreciate their support. You can connect with Sports 2000 on Facebook, Instagram or Twitter, and we'll put links to those in the show notes. Next time, I'll be speaking to Chaz Draycott, who is the commentator for the Sports 2000 Championship, so you'll probably recognise his voice. I'll look forward to connecting with you again soon.